Ontario wants to bring beer and wine sales to corner stores, but it needs to tear up a multi-year contract with some of the world's biggest brewers to make that happen. Let's dig further into the details now with Ontario Finance Minister Vic Fedeli. Thanks for joining us, Minister.
Yeah, a great pleasure, Greg. Thank you.
So this was a promise that your government had made to further expand the sale of beer and wine in this province, get it into corner stores, but you do have this contract with the beer store. Why the urgency to break this contract and make this happen now?
Well, first of all, people need to know that the beer store is not owned by the province of Ontario. Most people believe that that's the case. We do own the LCBO, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, but we do not own the beer store. It is owned by three global beer multinationals. And we campaigned a year ago on bringing choice and convenience and bringing beer and wine into corner stores, and that's what we intend to do.
Now, indeed, we do know that originally it was Molson and Labatt and Sleeman, but of course, over time, it ends up being Sapporo, InBev, Molson, Coors that end up true. So the multinationals owning this beer store. At the same time, though, I like beer. I'll admit it. I enjoy beer, and more convenience for buying beer would suit me just fine. I am, however, willing to wait 5 or 6 years if it's going to end up costing $1 billion in break fees. That's one of the numbers floating around, that to break this contract is going to be very expensive for the Ontario taxpayer.
Well, that's a number thrown out there by these insiders who have had it their way for so long, and they will say and do absolutely anything to protect their turf and to protect this lucrative contract. Think about it this way. You have to imagine, why would these beer multinationals be so opposed to us, the government, putting more of their product in corner stores, thousands of corner stores? Why would they be so opposed to selling more product like that? It's because the contract they have today is so lucrative. The special advisor that was retained by the province said that this is one of the worst deals, and that if we don't do this now, this bad deal will continue and will be held hostage for another 6 years.
Now, there are concerns being fronted as well that this will cost jobs. If the beer store sees competition open up to corner stores, that some of those, I think it's 7,000 positions, are going to be challenged. They're good paying jobs. I mean, and this is what we want Ontario people to have, good paying jobs. You have concern for those workers who work for the beer store. They're not the multinationals. They're just Ontarians looking to make a buck.
Well, we obviously want to continue chatting with any company, beer store included, that wants to provide choice and convenience in Ontario and bring a fair deal to the people of Ontario. You know, Greg, this isn't just about beer and wine, and it's not just about choice and convenience. It really is about fairness. And we want to bring a fair deal for the people of Ontario and for the taxpayers of Ontario, and quite frankly, for the craft brewers who are, for the most part, shut out as well. So this is bringing fairness in our system.
Do you think the international investment community sees it that way? If you weren't sort of steeped in Ontario politics or even Ontario life, you might take a look from the outside and say, this is a contract that's being terminated by the government. We know that the Hydro One Vista deal ended up going south because regulators didn't like the government interference. The province slogan under you guys is open for business. But if we keep breaking contracts, do we scare away investment?
Well, I say no, and the fact that in the current climate, we've been in office for almost 11 months, the current climate, we've seen 170,000 new jobs created in the province of Ontario. It's because we're cutting taxes, we're being pro-business, we're running this government in a business-like way, we're cutting red tape, so the business community is responding very well to our approach. The multinationals know that our parliamentary system allows us the tools to get out of bad contracts made by previous governments. That is well understood in the international spectrum, and that's exactly what will happen in a week.
Lastly, I want to ask you, Minister, I read an interesting piece over the weekend over my Saturday morning coffee about how many times Premier Ford has used the word bankrupt when referring to Ontario's finances. You're the keeper of the books. Is the word bankrupt really the correct word to use here?
Well, what he refers to, of course, what the Premier refers to is the fact that the previous Liberal government was spending $40 million a day more than they took in. And so luckily they have the, in the Liberals' mind, the taxpayers' pockets to just continue digging deeper and deeper and deeper, taxing more and spending more. Here we've laid out a path to balance that shows how we will bring a balanced budget in 5 years to the province of Ontario with absolutely no new taxes and return $26 billion in tax relief to Ontario families, businesses, individuals, seniors, and students.
All right, Minister, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thanks, Greg.
That was Ontario Finance Minister Vic Fedeli.